why China owning U.S. land is a bigger deal than we might think. They're trying to also get real involved economically on WND. A senator from Alabama is sounding the alarm that the Chinese Communist Party is trying to overtake the United States not only militarily, but also economically as Beijing continues to purchase U.S. land. He said, the problem is, they're just not trying to take us over militarily, they're trying to also get real involved economically in our country. This is what Senator Tom Tuberville, Republican of Alabama, said in an interview Tuesday with the Daily Signal. He said over the last decade, China has increased the amount of farmland purchases by about an astronomical amount. The Chinese Communist Party has purchased hundreds of thousands of acres of U.S. land since 2010. It acquired 352,140 acres of land, U.S. land through the end of 2020, a report by the Heritage Foundation said. Tuberville, who recently introduced the Securing America's Land from Foreign Interference Act with Senator Tom Cotton, Republican Arkansas, called for an end to China's ability to purchase U.S. land because it poses a national security threat. Recently, the Chinese company Fufeng Group purchased farmland just 12 miles from the Grand Forks Air Force Base in North Dakota. Tuberville, who labeled China as the top adversary of the U.S., expressed concern over that purchase, as well as about the Chinese government getting involved in financial institutions and some of our manufacturing, where we know that they steal as much intellectual property as they possibly can. The first-term senator stressed that the U.S. is constantly working to prevent the communist country from accessing U.S. military and scientific research. He says it's important that we start closing the door on that because we spend billions of dollars on research and development and millions of taxpayer dollars, by the way, in some instances, and the Chinese don't have to do that, Tuberville said. In regard to North Dakota land purchase, Republican Senators Kevin Cramer and John Hoeven, both of North Dakota, and Marco Rubio of Florida, sent letters last month to Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin sounding the alarm of the Fufeng Group of China. The letters called on the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States, or CFIUS, to conduct a review of Chinese food manufacturer Fufeng Group's recent purchase of roughly 370 acres of land near Grand Forks, North Dakota. Quote, what CFIUS has authority over, of course, as in its name, is investments or transactions that involve investments in the United States by foreign entities, end quote, Kramer explained to Daily Signal. The president of Fufeng, Li Shuchun, is an active member and supporter of the Chinese Communist Party, who's been recognized by the party as a model laborer, quote unquote, according to Kramer. And he said, by law, Chinese businesses are required to bow to the demands of the Chinese Communist Party, a regime that hates us and wants to overtake the United States at every opportunity. We shouldn't treat this as a regular real estate deal, Rubio told Daily Signal. When these Chinese businesses start buying American land near military installations, we need to ask why. CFIUS must conduct a full review of these purchases immediately. In the same vein, the National Association of Realtors reported last month listed China as the third largest foreign buyer of U.S. land, behind Canada and Mexico, spending $6.1 billion in the past year alone. China accounted for 2% of the foreign purchases in Florida last year, down from 5% in 2018, according to a similar report from the National Association of Realtors that was conducted on behalf of Florida realtors. Governor Ron DeSantis, Republican, said, I think the problem is these companies have ties to the Chinese Communist Party, and it's not always apparent on the face of whatever a company is doing, but I think it's a huge problem, he said. DeSantis also explained that his state has sought to counter the influence of China by banning Confucius institutions, cultural centers that operate on college campus and are funded by China. He said, we're also probably going to do legislation next legislative season about our pension investments with things that may be linked to the Chinese Communist Party. We don't necessarily have a lot of it, DeSantis said, but we want to make sure we are cutting ties so that we are not funding our number one adversary, he says. Representative Dan Newhouse, Republican from Washington, is another lawmaker working to prevent further land purchases by Communist China. Last year, Newhouse introduced an amendment that would prohibit the purchase of farmland by the People's Republic of China, the Communist Party, or companies associated with the Communist Party. He said, the reason for this is that over the past 10 years, we've seen the People's Republic of China literally invest trillions of dollars around the world. He cited Central and South America, Middle East, Indo-Pacific region, and Africa as examples. Newhouse, who introduced a similar bill in May, explained that a report from the Economic Research Service, which is part of the Department of Agriculture, revealed that Chinese assets in the U.S., quote, have gone up by a factor of 10 over the last decade. He said, why that's important, and people need to fully appreciate this, that having a country like China with a determined goal to increase or control the United States food production is not only an issue of food security for us, but I think this is a huge national security issue as well, he said. China's arable land is shrinking due to rapid urbanization, industrial growth, and natural disasters, as well as both soil and water pollution, according to a May report from U.S.-China Economics and Security Review Commission, or UCESRC. The Asian communist giant has 294 million acres of arable land to support its 1.4 billion people, compared to the United States, which has more than 375 million acres of arable land and nearly 330 million people, according to that report. The report also explained that to combat its concern for land and food scarcity, China has sought to reduce its reliance on imports of items such as soybean and corn, improve and conserve its domestic farmland, and adopt a more industrial approach to farming. China, which owns less than 1% of land, U.S. land held by foreign countries, has also turned its attention to investments in the U.S. on items such as seeds and livestock, as well as infrastructure and land. Regarding China buying U.S. farmland, the UCESRC report says, in owning these assets in both the U.S. and within China, Chinese agricultural producers diversify supply and mitigate risks of events like natural disasters, consolidating some of its production lines within the United States, for instance, with pork, also helps expedite the production process from farm to table. Newhouse expanded on how the Chinese acquisition of U.S. farmland threatens America's national security. He said, we've heard the President of China, President Xi Jinping, state several times that their goal is to create a community of common destiny for mankind, that is to remake the world in their image. And what's happening around the globe, what I described, is what's known as the Belt and Road Initiative that China has undertaken. The Belt and Road Initiative, which Xi unveiled nearly 10 years ago in 2013, is aimed at spending or investing over $1 trillion on new infrastructure and connectivity investments across the Indo-Pacific and Eurasian supercontinent, according to the Heritage Foundation report. And as I said, it's a food security, national security issue, because if we can't feed our own citizens, and I think that's part of the reason China is doing this, they have a huge population and they need food, Newhouse said. And if we can't be a country that can control and feed our own population, that is a huge national security risk. We would be at the mercy of foreign countries, and in this case, a foreign country that is not our ally, China. Well, then I would venture to say here and ask the very, very deep question concerning going concern of humanity and the United States. Why do they want to close down farms and our livestock and our dairy cattle? Now, in a recent, that is the U.S. government, in recent Fox News op-ed, Cotton shared the same concerns over a Chinese government potentially controlling the United States food supply. He says at the height of the Wuhan coronavirus, Smithfield made sure China got the pork it needed, while American grocery stores ran short, the Arkansas senator said. Smithfield Foods, based in Smithfield, Virginia, the largest pork producer and hog producer in the world, was sold to Chinese billionaire Wang Long back in 2013. Isn't that something? Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support. and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.